found something. We found something. We found something.
This is the one that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and I know I've been waiting for it.
Oh, I know, because ever since Sream Factory announced that they were going to make this Blu-ray, I've been elated. I mean, I've been so excited. I couldn't wait to get to this one.
Now, the good thing about this, Vince, is we've already done our commentary about talking about the film, and we've also done the unboxing. So basically, all we're going to be doing in this is going through all the hundreds of extras on the DVD.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I actually own 3 versions of this film, Vince. I have the actual DVD version of it, I have the Blu-ray version of it, and now I have the Sream Factory version of it.
And I only have the Sream Factory version of it. Because this is one of the movies, even though as much as I love this film, this is something I was really waiting for, is like a definitive The Thing and a version of this film, and pretty much this is it.
So let's get right into this. Let's take a look at the Blu-ray, the DVD, and the new 2K scan to see if you can tell a difference between the 3. So let's start with the original DVD. I picked this scene because it does have some inside shots and some outside night shots, so I think it would be a good variety. So here is the original DVD version, and now we are on to the Blu-ray version, and wow, what a difference just by seeing this compared to the regular DVD. So it will be interesting to see how Sream Factory stacks up to this, because it's really good quality. And now the brand new 2K scan from Sream Factory. The one thing I noticed while watching this is, unlike the Blu-ray version, this does have a fine film of grain that is going over the top of it. And it's so odd watching a DVD after watching Blu-rays for such a long time, because it's really just blurry. I mean, there's no clarity to it at all. Quality of this is exceptional. I would say the new version is so clear that you can see Wilford Brimley's diabetes.
And I would have to agree with you, but I would have to say I can't compare anything because I haven't seen those versions. I've only seen this Sream Factory version, and from this Sream Factory version, it's so crystal clear. It's just amazing. And later on in the extras, they get into a TV version of this movie, and that's the only one that I really ever saw. So that's pretty much the way I've watched The Thing almost all my life until now.
Well, one great thing about it is the colors. The colors pop out in this version. You know, when Rob Bottin made the creature, there's so many different colors to the creatures. There's pinks and purples and greens and reds and blues, and it's like watching a Disney movie, a horror Disney movie.
Yeah, and there's so much color to it. when you watch it on television or regular television, and for years growing up without HD anything, and you watched it like that, it was like everything blended in. Everything was white or gray or black or dark or and you couldn't tell what was what. But now it's like everything's crystal clear and sharp.
So let's get the boring stuff over with first, Vince. Of course, that's the commentary. However, with this, that is the least thing I could say about this. It's probably some of the best commentary ever.
Each one of these is fantastic. It's actually worth listening to more than I think any other Sream Factory disc I've listened to commentary on.
Now, they've had a commentary with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, which is carried over from the other discs. And I listened to it when I had the original DVD version of it. And to this day, it's still one of my all-time favorite commentaries. It's so fun, so funny, so informative. And I mean, it's like, that's how you do commentary. And ever since I listened to that, I was always looking forward to John Carpenter's commentary because he does such a great job with it.
Yeah, it's so fun to listen to him on this. Him and Kurt Russell and their banter back and forth, and it's informative as well as it's entertaining. And that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Now we have a new commentary by Dean Cundey on here. And again, I'm like, okay, I've listened to Dean Cundey's commentary in the past because he's basically on almost every Sream Factory DVD that they've released because he's done just about all John Carpenter movies.
Right. And John Carpenter has some kind of thing going on with Sream Factory, so yeah, he's on like everything that we've purchased in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
So Dean Cundey starts out talking about, I mean, basically what he does. He does the lighting in the movie. He sets up the lighting and everything, and that's okay. I mean, that was pretty interesting when he was talking about that. And I thought, okay, is this the whole commentary? Is he just going to sit there and talk about the lighting and whatever? But then he sort of switches gears, and he starts talking about, Rob Bottin's work and all that, and then he starts talking about how the critics hated the movie when it comes out. And all that's fine and everything, but then, Vince, this is probably one of the most important parts of this entire DVD, or the entire Thing saga since I've been little. He unloaded a bombshell.
And what was that bombshell, Dave?
Basically, he tells you how you can identify the Thing in the movie.
Well, let's not give it away for everyone, though.
I've seen this movie hundreds of times, Vince. Hundreds and hundreds of times I've watched this movie, and I never noticed that. I never thought about it. I never saw it. And never, And the thing is, it's been hidden in this movie this whole time, and John Carpenter knew it, Dean Cundey knew it, and no one ever said anything about it.
But the other thing about Dean Cundey, yes, he talks about lighting, and he talks about those other things that you mentioned, but he's the cinema.
Just speaking English.
He's a cinema photographer, is what I was trying to say.
Just speak English.
That's what he actually is. He's a cinematographer for the Thing, and John Carpenter's go-to cinematographer forever on everything.
You can know who is the Thing now by watching the movie, and the ending of the film, which was a big who's the Thing at the end. Now you know. Now you know who the Thing is.
Yeah, jaw-dropping.
I'm sorry. I know you're speaking.
Jaw-dropping.
And I see your lips moving.
Yeah, jaw-dropping.
But I can't understand what you're saying.
Like bird droppings, but jaw-dropping.
Because I don't speak, little bitch.
Gotta be nice. Hostility, diddly, biddly, diddly. Oh, hell, diddly, ding, dong.
So next commentary I sat through again. Sometimes commentaries can be good, but they are my thing that I look forward to the least when I'm watching a DVD, because basically you got to watch the movie over and over and over, and if they have like 4 commentaries, you're watching the movie 4 or 5 times, and you pretty much get tired of watching it because you watch it over and over and over. But we do it for these reviews. So this next commentary, again, I wasn't really looking that forward to, but it turned out to be just as good as the Dean Cundey one. It was great.
This one is the one commentary out of these I didn't get to watch.
Very rare to have 3 commentaries all be great. Absolutely worth listening to. absolutely worth watching the film all 3 different times. Fantastic.
The only other thing extra-wise on the first disc here, aside from the commentaries and the new film scan and all that kind of thing, is they show trailers. They show the trailers from Germany, and they show the teaser trailer and the theatrical trailer. Then they have the TV spots, and everything is pretty much the same thing. But I have to say, I never saw the original trailers for this, so that was kind of interesting. And as far as the TV spots go, I actually remember seeing some of those when I was, as a kid, and seeing them on television. And then they have, I think the still gallery is there, which is, of course, all photos from the set and promos and all that kind of thing.
So now we get to our first big extra events, and what is that?
The Requiem for a Shapeshifter.
Campbell.
Ooh.
Kill
Shapeshifter.
That's a hard part right in there.
I still can't say it. Shapeshifter.
And the yodel goes right in there somewhere, but it's a little too high for me.
This is an interview between Mick Garris and John Carpenter. And it's really kind of odd that they had Mick Garris on here, because in another review that I'm doing for this horror month, Mick Garris was the actual director of the film. So I had just watched that and then watched this, and I'm going, oh, that's the director of the film I just watched.
I like the fact, too, that he talked about the music in this interview. And if you didn't know, John Carpenter is actually touring right now, playing music from all his films, like just him, I guess. And he's touring around. He was here in Chicago. That's not too far from me. I really wanted to go, but of course it was completely sold out.
But I have to say, even watching that other film and then watching this interview, I really liked what Mick Garris did. He's actually a really interesting guy and knows a lot about films and about movies. And to have him actually do this interview with John Carpenter was actually really cool.
So next up is the big one, sort of that, the big thing that Sream Factory always has. They always have like one extra that's like an hour, 20 minutes, and this is it.
The Men of Outpost 31.
And here are interviews with everybody except for Kurt Russell, obviously. I don't know why they couldn't get him. I mean...
Pretty much the entire cast, other than him, is on here.
And I had no idea, Vince, that Wilford Brimley's still alive. I had no clue. He was on there, and I'm like, huh?
He's still in there with all of his diabetes and everything.
He's like, oh, interview, just put me and throw me in that chair, and he just kind of like slumped there. But, he's still very coherent. I mean, he remembers everything. And it was really cool to see him. I thought, wow, this is pretty awesome. Guy's still alive.
It was really entertaining to see all this, because I love when Sream Factory does this and brings all these characters and all these actors back to do these things, because it's interesting to see what they look like now. It's interesting to hear from them and hear their stories from way back then, and them telling it now and how they feel about the film and everything now. So I'm always entertained by this, and I love that Sream Factory does this with like almost every one of their discs.
Yeah, and it's outstanding, just outstanding. When I grew up, I knew nothing about the thing. I mean, there's a lot of movies that I've watched hundreds of times, and for whatever reason, I'd never seen any behind-the-scenes footage. I never knew anything about the film. I knew nothing. So learning all this stuff and hearing all the interviews from the sets and everything, it blows me away. It's so fun for me, for such a classic film, to learn about it. I just love it.
Okay, the next feature on here is called Assembly and Assimilation. Wow, I was able to say that and can't say Shapeshifter. But it features the editor, Todd Ramsey. And I don't remember what he said.
He talks about the rewrites of the film. So basically that's what this extra is. It just kind of gives you more information about how the film was put together, how it was edited. And I think the first time they edited it together, it was terrible. I think they said that it was just a bunch of guys out in the Arctic talking to each other. And it was just a terrible edit.
Okay, this was also about the reshoots that they did, that they inserted. Because, like you were saying, it was pretty much just guys just standing around and talking about who could be the thing be. But they had to pump it up a little bit, and they had to change some things, and they added some things where it took them out of the building or out of the rooms that they were in. So they were actually outdoors in some of the reshoots. And it made a lot more sense, and it just worked better.
So the next extra is called Behind the Chameleon. And part 1 shows the model spaceship in the very beginning of the film. And that blew my mind, Vince, that this woman still had the thing.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. That she still had this actual ship. And she's showing how it works and everything, all the lights in it and what they had to do to actually film it. And it was pretty cool. And there was actually some things on there that were kind of computer generated. And if there was actually any CGI to this, I guess that's what it was.
And they also had the guy on here who talked about how he did the title for the thing. Because it's just like this classic title that like rips across the screen and light pours through it. And I always thought that was so cool. And then when you find out how it was done, you're like,
Yeah, it was so simple. It's almost amazing that they got away with that. Okay, so they have Brian Wade talking about all the makeup effects and all everything that the actual practical effects that they had to put together and bring to the set every day. Brian Wade and Ron Berman were actually, I guess, assistants to Rob Bottin, and they would help him get all the stuff to the sets.
So part 3 is all about the stop motion they didn't use for the end of the film. Yeah, and the guy spent, I don't know what they said, 6 months, something like that, animating the sequence. And the woman who did the spaceship also did the little canisters for, like, you know, the cans that were sitting around, like, in the basement. And she still had those. She was showing those off, too. I was like, the woman never throws anything away. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was really cool because she's talking about this stuff and showing the miniatures and everything and talking, you know, that there was actually a whole lot of technique behind all of this where she took photos from the actual set and then scaled everything down, and she did this. And you think about it, there's no computers. There's no, there's no nothing to actually go by at that point. You know, now they would have done it with digital computers, CGI and everything, but then they actually did it with models and scaled everything down to make it look exactly like the set that she had taken the photographs from. Okay, so the part 4 to this, the last part of this great big long feature in this, is where everyone pretty much gives their final thoughts about the film. Everybody, because when it actually came out, it flopped. It didn't do as well as they thought it would.
Next extra is Sounds from the Cold. And this is all the sound effects and the music in this film. And I found this super fascinating because, once again, I don't think that, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that people go through this much problems to get sound effects for films anymore.
I don't know that they would anyway, because, I mean, pretty much Ben Burtt with Lucasfilm has pretty much cornered the market on that. I mean, he's got like every sound that you could ever imagine. But that doesn't mean that none of these other people don't.
Yeah, like these two guys talked about how they would get in a dumpster and record the sound that were coming from the outside, the whistling of the sound that echoed inside of a dumpster. And that's the sound that was in the film on the inside of the buildings, was the sound they recorded while they sat in a dumpster.
I like that story you told too, especially with the guy that came over and opened the hood.
So next up, we have something that I thought you would really appreciate here, Vince. And I love this extra. I've never seen this before on anything. And again, that's why Sream Factory is so freaking awesome. It's because of this next extra.
When it first came on, I was like, oh man, this is going to, I sat there like, oh boy. I don't know if I can get through this one. And But as I listened to him, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I realized it was Alan Dean Foster. And then they show his actual library and all the books. And I'm looking at all these books that he's done and thought, wow, yeah, he's done, I've got half his library there.
He's done Alien, he's done Terminator, he's done Star Wars, he did Starman. I mean, he just did about all of them.
I'm looking at this and going, oh man, I forgot that he did half these things that he's written. I've read it. I read Aliens, and I read Star Wars, and I read Terminator, and all those that you mentioned. And I'm going, wow. Yeah, and he did do the movie tie-in for The Thing, and which is one I hadn't read, which I hadn't found, actually.
And it's just a really great extra because, like I said, I had never seen anything like this, and I like how, you know, he talks about how he does it, and that's his career, basically. He just copies scripts over to they give him the script to the movie, and it's like, here, make a book out of this. So he kind of follows the script, but then he also adds a little of his own stuff in it, too. It's just really great. And now we have an entirely different version of The Thing, which is your favorite, Vince, the TV version.
First goddamn week of winter.
Well, what was really strange about this, from the very beginning, at the very beginning, you hear a voiceover.
Antarctica, winter 1982.
Where the heck did that come from?
Bennings, meteorologist, an old pro. Many papers published in his field.
Oh, it's horrible.
McCready, a top helicopter pilot, worked for Hughes Aircraft as a test pilot until he got into a confrontation with top management and resigned to take this assignment.
Really? Do I need to know any of this information? Why? Why wasn't it even in there?
Well, if you were like me and didn't get to go to the theaters and actually see this film, watching it on television for the first time, you would have thought, hey, that's part of the movie. So when you actually watch the real movie, you go, where's the voiceover?
It's like all the really great, cool stuff was completely gone, and you might see the monster, but it's like, and it's gone, and you're like, okay. And then, of course, they changed the ending of it, too, which is really weird. It was a really bizarre ending. The next thing here is Terror Takes Shape. And this is a bunch of old interviews with John Carpenter, and Kurt Russell's actually on this one.
Yeah, but this is because it's old footage from 1982.
And this is Rob Bottin is actually on this one, too, and talking about all the effects and everything.
It's all interesting, and it's done really well. It's put together really well, especially for being as old as it is. It's almost like pre-Sream Factory.
So next is the making of A Chilling Tale, and again, just the same stuff repeated. Old footage, people talking, behind-the-scenes stuff that you've seen already, same stuff.
And then they come with the making of The Thing, which you're thinking, okay, this is probably something new. This is probably the actual Sream Factory making of it, but it's not. It's actually a 15-minute long version of what you just watched with Making of a Chilling Tale. The art of Mike Klug. So he actually did the storyboards for The Thing, and when you look at him, this is actually pretty cool. It's a slideshow of all his storyboards.
And then after that, we actually get something new. And this was really cool, really fascinating. And it's called Back into the Cold.
This was actually the kind of horror's hallowed grounds for this particular Blu-ray. What Sean Clark would usually have done. And this is where they actually go to some of the filming locations that you see in the movie. And they actually went to British Columbia.
And they went up the mountain where they actually built the set that they blew up. I mean, they literally blew the entire set up at the end of the film. And there was still stuff up there. All that stuff is just still laying up there, and it just blows my mind. So up next we have outtakes, and these aren't nothing too great. They are just basically sort of extended versions of stuff they already filmed. I mean, stuff that's in the movie.
Yeah, it's more deleted or extended scenes than it is outtakes. When I read outtakes on there, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be a gag reel. That's actually what I was waiting for. And I was sitting there going, Well, that isn't very funny.
And now we have yet another version of this film called the Vintage Product Reel.
And this is where I didn't get to watch.
Well, it's not the entire film, it's only parts of it. And basically what they show are, it starts at the Norwegian camp, basically, and it goes throughout the rest of the film. And there are a couple new sequences here and there, a couple new scenes, but it's nothing great. It's just, I don't know, it's okay. You know, I was expecting something really cool here, but it was alright. Next is the vintage behind the scenes.
More vintage.
And then we have annotations and finally some images and information about the movie, like stills and whatnot. So, after all that, Vince, I would say that Sream Factory did a really good job on the thing.
I think it was outstanding. I think this was an outstanding DVD. It's comprehensive. I think it's one of the best John Carpenter. So far, all the John Carpenter stuff they've done has just been amazing. They've put some really amazing stuff together with everything they've done with John Carpenter. And I really hope at some point they start doing that with a few more directors, or at least writers or something, like Stephen King or Wes Craven.
Yeah, it seems like Sream Factory focuses a lot on John Carpenter, which there's nothing wrong with that, really. But yeah, you know, it would be nice for them to take somebody else new, like you're saying, and do this for them, rather than have it be John Carpenter all the time.
I would like to see that, but what they're doing with John Carpenter, fantastic. I mean, I love everything so far. I mean, this is just as every bit as entertaining and every bit as good as The Fog, or Halloween, or what else? Prince of Darkness?
Escape from New York, they also did. They Live.
Right. I mean, those have been all Sream Factory editions, and they've all been fantastic.
So, I would have to give The Thing, the Sream Factory DVD, the final rating of Gold.
Dr. Copper, graduate of Harvard Medical School, received his training at Massachusetts General Hospital. A personal tragedy in his life sent him on this adventure.
The Golden Machine!
Do you believe any of this voodoo bull stuff, Blair?
Child.
So if you're a Thing fan, obviously, I mean, and if you're on the fence about getting this, don't. I mean, jump over that fence and keep on running, because you want The Thing.
After you jumped over that fence, you hit our subscribe button, and you come back here and you watch Horror Month 2016.
Chariots of the gods, man.